YouTube, welcome! In this gorgeous afternoon, I'm bringing you guys my 1000 kilometers owner's review for my 2025 Kawasaki Z900rs SE. Now, I will not go super in detail into the spec sheet of this bike because, first of all, that's something that you can easily look up on the Google. For this video, I want to give you something different that you wouldn't be able to see in the Kawasaki website. Besides, if you are looking to purchase a bike like this, I would imagine a lot of you would be more familiar with the spec sheet than I do. Now this bike, or this model specifically, Kawasaki Z900rs, it came out around 2017, 2018. And it was like an instant hit by Kawasaki. I think it's up until today, well, last year, 2024, this bike is still the most sold model, over 400cc most sold model in Japanese domestic market. And that should speak volume about just how awesome and how well received this bike was. And one additional benefit of receiving such wide popularity is that you will have no shortage of aftermarket parts for this bike. Now, it almost reminds you of the JDM craze back in the 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s, where a lot of manufacturers would make specific parts just for a single vehicle, and this is bringing it back. If you go on to let's say WeBikes, you will find everything you will ever need, whether you can or cannot imagine, every part for this bike. So if you want a retro style bike that's with a modern reliability and you want your personal touch on the bike, you cannot go wrong with this bike. Now this bike is sharing the platform with the Z900, the Street Fighter variant, but as you can see, they used a completely different engine case with these air cooling fan, where this is oil and this is a liquid cool engine, but with this detailed, polished air cooling fan, it almost makes this bike like a genuine vintage bike. But obviously, if you pull far ahead and you see all the Brembo brakes, the huge radiator here, and nonetheless the Ohlins Mona Shark, this is a proper modern sports bike with a bit of a classic flair to it. For this year, 2025, the SE model has this gray-black two-tone matte finish, which I think looks awesome. Well, I think every Z900rs comes with a gorgeous paint. Like, Kawasaki has not failed us on that part. Doesn't matter which combination, color combination you're going for, you will be amazed by how well the paint finish is. And for whatever reason, an interesting thing I found out when I was shopping for this bike is that none of the videos or pictures online does this bike justice. Like, if you have access, if you have a local Kawasaki dealership where they park one of these in their showroom, I highly recommend you to go take a look. Oh, hello there, huh? Hello there. This isn't a flower. Well, it's gorgeous as a flower. Anyway, if you can have access to this bike in your local dealership, go take a look. This bike is much more beefy, much more substantial in person compared to anything you will see online. As a matter of fact, I am particularly fond of this angle with the huge meaty tire, the classic round rear light, the beefy exhaust tip, and the bulging tank. And unlike the Z900, which you share its engine with, this bike is purely manufactured and assembled in Japan. It comes from the same assembly line as all the top of the line Kawasaki models, like your H2s, your H2Rs, your ZX14Rs, your ZX10Rs. And there's a lot of neat little details about this bike. For example, there's this little badge thing here, which is, it feels nice. Gives you a little bit of a more premium feeling about this bike. Also, you have your helmet lock here. Honestly, well, obviously, if you park it in a safe environment, like your company's private parking lots, you will probably lock up your helmet here, but I personally wouldn't put my helmet outside with my bike. Besides, like, where are you gonna even lock with this? It's just the strap. Like, people can just take it away, right? But anyway, it's there, which is nice. And I do like that from factory, the swing arm comes with these. There's the other one on the other side. These two holes for you to put your rear stand spools on it. Like, well, honestly, I think they should just give you these, but I mean, it's nice to leave the space for it, which, well, these doesn't really cost that much on the Amazon. And another gorgeous feature about this bike is its dual analog gauge. Well, it's a bit dusty out here, but with its bully shell, it really brings you the retro feel of this bike. out onto the surface. Like it feels like a time machine where it takes you back to the old time where things are much more simpler, and it was just you and your bike and the road. Speaking of road, let's get onto it. Okay, now we're on the road where this bike belongs. Yeah, this bike is powered by the 980 48cc inline 4. However, Kawasaki has detuned it from the Z900 for a more usable, wider range of power band. So, compared to the Z900, this bike will feel a lot more grunty, punch a lot harder at lower speed or lower rev range. Now, for a lot of people, when they're purchasing a bike, when everybody's buying their new bike, they always have an idea of a bike, an imagery of a bike in their mind. For some people, it's a gigantic cruiser or a chopper with a very punchy V-twin. For some people, it's a two-stroke, a dirt bike, or as it gets more popular, or it has been pretty popular, a crotch rocket, a super sport with full fairings where you have to attack every corner possible, otherwise you're not really riding. For me personally, this is what a bike looks like. Round headlights, twin analog gauge, beefy tank, where beefy tank where you can almost take your child sitting on top of the tank. A very utilitarian look. However, this bike is a little bit more than that. Well, a lot more. This bike is what I would call it's stuck in a suit. Think of Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinder, or the Cray brothers from Legend, played by Tom Hardy. Like, both of the characters are well dressed, well dressed to the T, but they have this presence to them that not to mess with them. And just to demonstrate the torque, right now I'm at third gear, very low RPM. We have a stretch of a way ahead. I'm just gonna give it a bit of a twist of throttle. just to see if you can feel it. There. And I especially am fond of this stock exhaust. I went to a group ride, a meet, that people are asking me what exhaust I use for this bike, as if it's an aftermarket. But, well, I guess it was also one of the selling points of this bike. You will see on the Kawasaki official list, they will say, official page, they will say it's the factory tuned exhaust, and I think they actually did a quite job at that. Now, who's this bike for? Now we have discussed why would someone want to buy like this, why I would want to buy like this. I like this bike for its look. For me, if I'm picking a bike, if I'm picking a motorcycle, it gotta look good. Like, that's literally on the top of my priority list. Like, for me, looking good is part of the experience of owning this bike, you know? Like, what's the point of riding a motorcycle, which is a very cool activity in itself, while you're riding on a less handsome motorcycle? But you know, to each their own. Some people don't really care what their bike looks like. They only care about the performance. And performance-wise, this bike, I would say this bike can do anything that the Z900 can do in a lot much more comfortable ergonomics. And this bike can compete with the likes of Triumph, Speed Twins, BMW R90s, just as much as it can compete with the likes of MT-09s and Ducati Monsters. You know, I feel like this is, if you can only keep one bike in your garage, if you only gonna ride one bike for the rest of your life, I would highly recommend you give a try on this one. Let's do it again. Woo! Man, that felt nice. Now, out of all those bikes that I mentioned, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about them too. You know why? Because I was in the exact same situation. We're both in the same market. Okay, let's head that way. As I was saying, we were in the exact same market for a powerful naked bike that, well, basically outshone the others. Now, I'll explain why I didn't choose each one of them, and those might or might not be the reason why you would want to choose them instead. So here it goes. The first one I swiped off the list was the Ducati Monster. Well, to be honest, I never really looked twice on that bike, I think the new ones looks gorgeous. I think being a Ducati itself, the MSRP and the maintenance cost is a little bit too much for what it offers. That was like my first pass. If that's what you're in for, if you like red, I think you might take a second look at that. And the second one actually was a Triumph Street Triple. Shocking, I know. Well, this is not really a direct competitor, but you know, they're all kind of in the same ballpark. Middleweight, naked, kind of good at everything. But the Street Triple is much more aggressive. That bike was essentially just a super sport without a fairing. And I was actually going to pick one. In my local dealership, there was a trade-in 2024 model Cosmic Yellow, gorgeous bike with very low mileage, like under 1,000, I think. That was basically a new bike with a very good listing price. But first of all, I realized, let's go over here. First of all, I realized I do not want a super sport. There's a reason I'm picking a naked. Not saying the street triple has a bad ergonomics, but it's definitely not as comfy as something like the Z900 or any other bike in its class. And the second reason is I really don't like. I have a bit of a difficult landing my feet on that, sitting on that bike. Like, I have a relatively, I'm 5'9", but I have a relatively short inseam, and I hit the gym, so my quads are a little bit developed, which is not helping the situation at all. So the Street Triple is a little bit tall for me, and I was thinking, well, you know, if I have to get a lower seat, which may or may not work, or like I don't want to lower the bike because I think it would destroy its whole structure, and I don't really want to, you know, I know if I pick that bike, I will probably end up in the grass one day. It's a really aggressive bike. As for the MTs, disclaimer, before I bash on its looks, I am a huge cyberpunk fan. You know, I'm all for those futuristic robotic design. But even I think that the MT, even the 2020, even the 4th gen MT-09 with the facelift, which is arguably a lot better compared to the 3rd gen Mantis looking or Dragonfly looking headlights. The 4th gen is arguably a lot better, but that's nowhere. That's a pure hooligan. It's nowhere as stable as this one. And when I hit the showroom floor, well, when I went to the dealership, hit the showroom floor, I saw this bike. I was like, the MT. Screw all of you. I'm getting this. It's like a love on first sight. You know what I mean? As for the R90s, I don't really have a lot of experience with it. But judging by, well, it's absolutely gorgeous. Again, it's a very, very beautiful bike. Probably, I would even argue it's probably better looking than this for some people. I would say it's on par. However, I'm not too sure about the Boxer. Like, I love Boxer. I'm a super fan. But on a motorcycle, with its big piston and only 2 cylinders working opposed to one another, it's inherently unbalanced. And you will see, as people, you know, revving the engine, the bike twists, roll around. And they are ridiculously expensive. I've seen R90s from 2015 are selling more than a new Z900 base model. Like, those people are crazy because it's a BMW, I guess. People think they're worth that much money. Well, anyway, there you go. That's why out of all the sea of the middleweight, I picked this one. And you know what's one more thing of how to enjoy a naked bike is this. Is the past couple kilometers we've been riding through. It doesn't have a wind fairing. You are not going to have a pleasant experience on the highway. You are just getting wind punching your gut. You will have to really like tuck in to mitigate those wind, or you will have install a huge windshield, which at that point, why do you even get a naked? Just get a Sport Touring or a ADV. The naked for me is this, you know, riding at a low speed in this backcountry road, nowhere, away from the city, away from the traffic. Where I'm going with this, where does this road lead? I don't know. I mean, if I'm lost, either I open up my phone, open up the GPS, or I'll just head back where I came from. Big deal. And without the fairy, without the windshield, it almost feels like you are, like, if this is a paint, you know, you're sightseeing, you're appreciating your surroundings, you're watching a paint in a museum, instead of like other bikes where you see them through a lens, or see the paint, admiring the paint through the frame, through the, you know, those gatekeeping thing. You are inside the paint. You are one with the paint. You're one with the scenery itself. And you feel the wind breezing